Hi everyone, and welcome to Spirit Basics, the show for both the beginner and the avid connoisseur of fine spirits. I'm Jennifer Allan.
And I'm Stephen Olson. Today's episode is our second part of the look at the magical mezcals of Mexico. Last episode we focused on tequila. This time we'll talk about mezcal.
Okay, so in the last episode you said that all agave-based spirits are mezcals, but tequila comes from a specific place in Mexico. Where does mezcal come from?
Well, interestingly enough, tequila actually is a mezcal and was actually called at one time Mezcal de Tequila. Now, tequila was made in Jalisco and still is, but today it can be made in Nayarit, in Guanajuato, in Michoacan, and in Tamaulipas, which are 4 other states of Mexico that all grow great agaves for the production of mezcals. Those areas used to be something like Mezcal de Michoacan, for example. Today, the 2 mezcals that we would talk about would probably be predominantly Chihuahua and most importantly, Oaxaca. Most of the mezcal that people know about is Mezcal de Oaxaca.
Okay, now are all these mezcals made from the same blue agave plant that the tequila is?
No, as a matter of fact, none of them are. Blue agave is strictly in that Jalisco area and those other states and is made for tequila production. In Chihuahua, we would use an agave called Sotol. But since we're centering in on Oaxaca today, we talk about the agave espadin. And espadin is actually called the sword cactus. And I know I told you that agave is not a cactus, but it's just the Spanish name was espadin, which meant sword cactus. It's a lily, it's a succulent, it's agavacea like we talked about before. There's another agave that grows down there called tobala. And tobala is a wild agave that only grows above about 8,000 feet above sea level, and it has to be hand harvested. It can't be cultivated. Quite unique products we're talking about here. Now, as we go back to our history that we were talking about before, imagine these Native American people worshiping literally this agave plant. It was the center for their life. They used the fibers from the agave to sew their clothing, to make the roofs on their homes and the shoes on their feet. The sugars they used to feed their children and to make non-alcoholic beverages. Pulque, we mentioned last week, was the nectar of the gods. They literally called it lightning nectar. That's what pulque means. And you can imagine the gods sending a lightning bolt down through the pistil of the agave itself, firing off that fermentation in the heart. That's what the Spanish found and began to distill.
Well, for more history behind mezcal, we turn to our master mixologist, Dale Degroff.
Mezcal. Even the mention of the name brings a shudder to those who have had a shot or two of it in their lifetimes. They have their mezcal stories, like people have tequila stories. Mezcal is like the Armagnac of tequila. The same way that Armagnac is the rougher country cousin of cognac, so is mezcal the rougher neighbor or cousin of tequila. Mezcal being a stronger flavor, a smokier flavor to the sophisticated, more mellow flavor of tequila. Mezcal was marketed very cleverly in the 50s with the worm. Stephen and Jennifer talked about it, the gusano in the bottom of the bottle, very clever. It doesn't have hallucinogenic properties, don't worry about it. It was marketed as a shooter. You didn't drink it in cocktails, and there was a really good reason why you didn't drink it in cocktails, because it's very, very difficult to mix. And tequila is no easy mix either. We know that it works really, really well in a margarita. It likes lime juice. It likes orange juice. It likes tonic. It even likes a savory ingredient like tomato juice. We make the Bloody Maria. But beyond that, it's a difficult mixer. Well, mezcal is even more difficult because mezcal has this smoky, smoky flavor that comes from the agave coming in contact with that smoke when it's baked, and that stays through that character, that smokiness right into the bottle. I designed a successful mezcal shooter for actually Quincy Jones' 70th birthday party, a surprise party thrown by Oprah Winfrey at the Beverly Hills Hotel in Los Angeles, California. I did the party and I designed tequila cocktails for that, but for the after party in the suite, I designed a shooter that was half mezcal and half very strong coffee liqueur, but on the rim of the shot glass, I put ground poblano peppers, a little bit of unsweetened chocolate powder, and a little bit of granulated sugar, so that we got an almost mole sauce kind of feeling, which was that famous Mexico City chicken dish, and a little, burning of the lips, and a pretty strong, but the strong smokiness and the coffee were a really nice match, but it is not easy to find matches like that. Mezcal today is going in another direction. Ron Cooper of Del May Gay is making very premium mezcals without the worm, but with very special single village mezcals that are wonderful.
Up next, we'll show you the fascinating 500-year-old process behind distilling these mezcals.
And our spirit insiders, Morgen and Scott, head out in the search for knowledge about mezcal. That's when Spirit Basics returns.
Welcome back to Spirit Basics. It's time now to take a closer look at how mezcal is made.
First off, let's talk about the different agave plants used to make mezcal.
Well, there are a half a dozen or so that we use to make mezcal across Mexico. And I just want to clarify this whole thing about pulque. First of all, we're often taught that we distill pulque to make tequila, and that couldn't be further from the truth. We still have to extract the sugars, make them fermentable, and then distill it. But pulque itself may be where the legend of the hallucinatory effects of mezcal come from. You do not hallucinate when you drink mezcal, and the worm has nothing to do with it, as Dale mentioned. However, the legend of the four pulques tells us that in ancient times, drinking a couple of pulques would bring you closer to God, and 3 or 4 takes you to a level you don't want to get to, which implies hallucinogenics, maybe. The idea is this: when we make mezcal in Oaxaca, we use the espadin, the sword cactus, or the tobala, the wild agave. When we make tequila, we use the blue agave from Jalisco.
So it's just a different species of the same plant is used in tequila.
Exactly.
So is the same process used to make mezcal?
Well, the same basic process that we have to extract the sugars, ferment, and distill, but that's where it ends, because in Oaxaca, in these Zapotec villages at 8,000 feet above sea level, for example, they're pulling this espadin heart, which is a smaller piña, out of a larger agave, and they're roasting them in the ground in underground pits for several days. Then they put it in the tahona and run the stone wheel around it with a burro and literally extract the sugars, open top fermentations, double pot distillation in copper stills, and I've even seen ceramic stills there. Rarely are the oak aged, although we have a couple great examples of them here, and sometimes mezcal is actually higher proof as well.
Well, for an even deeper look at mezcal, we turn now to our spirit guide.
You know, mezcal has this reputation as the poor cousin of tequila. Frankly, mezcal can be as complex, maybe even more complex. Let's look at how it's made. When I'm making tequila, I'll bake the piñas in the hornos, or I'll steam them in the autoclaves. When I'm making mezcal, traditionally, I'm gonna have a pit. These pits, some of them date back to Spanish times, and I'm going to fill those up with hot rocks, fronds from the agave plant, and the piña heads themselves. Now, if this sounds really pretty rustic and pretty basic, it's much more sophisticated than that. The reputation that these palenques, this is where these pits are, has as a group of drunken townsfolk getting together and throwing stuff into a pit and waiting for it to cook, that's not quite fair. It's similar, okay, but different. And that's to say, these are very sophisticated skills that they're bringing to bear. One friend of mine took 3 food thermometers to test the temperature inside this pit. They all max out at 1,000. They melt it, okay? So the people who are putting this stuff together in this pit, they know exactly what they're doing, and they pull out of that pit this wonderful, smoky, earthy, rich flavor that exemplifies what mezcal is supposed to be.
Well, now that we've taken a look at the history, the origins, and the process of making both tequila and mezcal, it's time for an inside look.
Our spirit insiders, Morgen and Scott, are on the hunt for knowledge about mezcal. Let's see what they found out.
Thanks, Stephen and Jennifer. I'm here again at the Congo Room with Alejandro. Now, Alejandro, can you tell me, we're at the Congo Room, but it's Nouveau Latino. What does that exactly mean?
Absolutely. Nouveau Latino is a trend, a new trend that has come up that is pretty much the internationalization of Latin culture. I think you have seen it on music and every other thing that we have doing, and now we do it in food.
So you do a lot of tequila-based drinks here, but you also have mezcal.
Absolutamente.
Can you tell us a little bit about mezcal? You know, what types of people will choose to drink mezcal over tequila, and what types of drinks you drink it in?
It's the cognac of Mexicans, per se. It's not a drink that you will mix with something, and it's actually pretty much a good connoisseur of drinks, particularly of any Mexican drinks. It's made out of agave, and it's made in different regions of Mexico. It's extremely strong, and you will mostly recognize it because inside of the bottles there is always something. In this particular case, this one has a scorpion on it. The original thing was that it gives it authenticity to it. It's meant to be grown in the desert. So then there is worms, there is scorpions, and somehow they got into these distilleries, and they're inside of what you're making already. So this is meant to say, look, this does not get distilled on a fancy stainless steel. No, this is authentic, was on wood, and is, really ragged, and it's so authentic that actually the animals are still there, and you can taste them.
So would people ever come down to the Congo room knowing that you guys have some mezcal and maybe there's not a whole bottle of it, so they know that they can come have maybe 1 or 2 shots and then actually eat the scorpion?
Absolutely. People ask, that is a problem now, right? I mean, apparently we're gonna have to collect the scorpions or worms on the side because people do. She said they just come and say look, can we have some mezcal and can we have, the worm? So I don't know, I guess I can go to a bait store and just get a bunch of worms and put them over there, but it's interesting for everybody to want to eat the worm. As I said, I think it's a sign of bravery, of daring.
Do you think that people, when they actually come down here and ask for, say, the scorpion or a worm, do they even know that they're drinking mezcal as opposed to tequila?
I would say no. You can tell that somebody who zips on a tequila, on a mezcal, knows about what they're doing. Don't just get drunk with it, but enjoy it, zip it, and have fun with it, right?
Great. Well, thank you very much, Alejandro.
No problem. Anytime.
Steve, Jennifer, guys, back to you. I'm going to try sipping on some mezcal and maybe if I'm man enough, try the scorpion. Back to you guys.
I actually just returned from Mexico on a little fact-finding mission of my own, and I brought this one back, but we'll talk about that after the break.
And we'll also get a lesson on how to drink mezcal and how to use it in some of your favorite cocktails. That's when Spirit Basics returns.
Spirit Basics is brought to you in part by Willow Park Wines and Spirits.
Welcome back to Spirit Basics, the show for everyone who wants to learn more about the world's best spirits. Now, right now we're going to talk about the proper way to drink mezcal. Stephen, do you drink this like a shooter, like you might do with tequila?
Well, first of all, I know we say that there are no rules when it comes to drinking these great spirits, but I will make a rule that we don't shoot any great spirits, we sip them. As a matter of fact, this bottle even says, sip it, don't shoot it, okay? Now, the Native American palenqueros would drink it perhaps out of one of these little ceramic cups, but never shoot it, just sip it. It's interesting, this product is great in cocktails, as Dale will show us a little bit later in the show, but we believe, many of us, that the word cocktail actually evolved from an ancient word from the Aztec culture, Xochiquetzal. Xochiquetzal was the goddess of desire and intoxication, and she was oftentimes seen superimposed with Mayahuel, the goddess of fertility. I find it amazing how desire, intoxication, and fertility always seem to go hand in hand. But we'll let Dale show us how great this is in cocktails a little bit later on.
And for an expanded look at the differences on drinking mezcal and tequila, we're joined by our spirit advisor.
I love mezcal, and first things first, you'll notice there's no worm in here, okay? Because the worm is just bad marketing, all right? And I'm not doing it as a shooter. And I'm not saying that you can't do mezcal or even tequila as a shooter. Fine, that's how you like to do it. But I like the taste of these, and I like to taste them. I'm not interested in going, gulp, ooh, quick, it hurt, Mom, please don't let me taste it. No, I want to taste it. I think the flavors of mezcal and tequila are fascinating, but the flavors are different. Mezcal's a different animal, and the smoke that you get inside mezcal, because it's been roasted inside these pits at the palenques, the smokiness, the earthiness, yeah, sometimes I get even a little rubbery and wild and earthy and funky and all that stuff. I like that. I think it's cool. It differentiates one drink from another to me. But it really is the smoke that I'm looking for in mezcal that differentiates it from tequila. Now, this one, as you can see, has a little color to it. It's obviously been put in barrels a little bit, just to take the edge off of it a little bit. If it were in tequila, I'd be calling it a reposado. But in mezcal, you won't necessarily see those terms. You certainly will see some añejos, and that's cool. They've been aged in oak, and there's nothing wrong with aging something in oak. But you know what? There's nothing necessarily right with aging something in oak either. If people like that, that's great, and lots of really smart people like those. But I like them usually just barely kissed by oak, pretty much naked, straightforward. I like the flavors of these drinks.
Our master mixologist, Dale Degroff, joins us now for a lesson on how to make a cocktail using Mezcal.
This is a familiar sight when you're talking about tequila and mezcal, the shot glass, because I'm going to make you a shooter today. It's called the Scorpion Stinger, and yes, it does. We talked about tequila, and tequila is mezcal, but mezcal is not tequila, in the same way that cognac is brandy, but brandy is not cognac. This is the overall category. This is made in Oaxaca, and by the way, yes, there is a worm right down there in the bottom, and people do eat it, and there's nothing hallucinogenic about it. That's an old wives' tale. It was a marketing gimmick. That worm bores its way into the agave plant, and some clever guy decided to drop it in the bottom of the bottle and thought it would become a thing, and it did. And in the bottle of the Scorpion bottle, yes, indeed, there is the exoskeleton of a scorpion. How about that, huh? And people eat that too, oh my God. Mezcal's a tough mixer. It's very smoky, unlike tequila. Why? Because when they cook the agave plants, it comes in contact with the smoke in those clay ovens. Whereas when you cook the agave plant in tequila, it doesn't come in contact with smoke. And we know that alcohol is a very friendly compound. If it comes in contact with a flavor, it likes to hook up with it. And that's what happened here. It hooked up with the smoke of the cooking of the agave, and it ends up with a smoky flavor right in the bottle. Let's make a drink. I'm gonna do the edge of my glass with a little bit of cocoa powder and chili, a famous combination in Mexico that they use for chicken mole. Cocoa and chili. And I'm gonna put a wet band on the edge of this, only on the outside, by the way, of this shot glass, and I'm gonna roll it in the cocoa and chili. And I'm gonna make three, one for Steve, one for Jennifer, and one for Dale. And let's coat this one and put a little bit on there. And this is going to be, by the way, a very difficult mixer because of the smokiness. It's tough to mix with mezcal, but I do know that it goes really well with coffee, and people put it in their espresso sometimes. And I'm using coffee liqueur, and that's going to bring out the chocolate, and it's going to be a nice combination. So let's start with a little bit of coffee liqueur, enough to make 3 shots here, and the Scorpion mezcal. I'm using Kahlua Especial, which is a little higher proof Kahlua. It's 70 instead of the normal. And I'm going to use the mezcal, and I'm just going to shake it real hard and make it real, real cold. And here we have our 3 shot glasses. Tres cohetes, 3 little chums there. Yeah. Okay. Straining always from the metal part with a springed Hawthorne strainer. When I strain from the glass part, I like to use my julep strainer, which fits very nicely. This fits very nicely on top of here. They don't work the other way too well, though. Falls in. Here we go. And using my Boston shaker, remember from the first episode, my Boston shaker. And what you're getting here, you're getting a little burn on the lips from the chile. And if you wanted to, you could get really fancy. Get some anchos and slow dry them in the oven, grind them up in your little mortar and pestle, mix them with some unsweetened chili powder, put a little sugar in there, put it on the rim of the glass. So you're gonna get the little sweetness from the sugar and a little bit of chocolate and a pretty smoky, the smoke and the coffee like each other. And that's the combination of flavor that we've got here. A salute. Steve, Jennifer, come and join me.
You know, that's a great cocktail. And even though Dale serves it in a shot glass, that doesn't mean you're supposed to shoot it. You're still supposed to sip it and savor it.
Well, in that way you can appreciate all the flavors in the drink as well.
Exactly right.
After the break, we'll get in the kitchen to see if we can cook using Mezcal. That's when Spirit Basics returns. Welcome back to Spirit Basics. We're in the kitchen and we're joined by our spirit chef, Chef Allan.
Hola, Jennifer.
Hola. Today we're talking about cooking with Mezcal. Now Mezcal is similar to tequila, so would you want to use it the same way in the kitchen?
Well, it's really not that similar to tequila in terms of the taste or the base flavor it's going to leave you, so you do have to be careful. In some ways, you can use the same rules that we used about talking about tequila, because it is good, it's got some strength, especially the stronger, smokier tequilas, to use with things like beef or pork or chicken. But really, it is a very distinct taste. Some people say it's smoky. To me, it's almost like burnt. You get a little bit of burnt rubber or tar taste to it, which is great when you're grilling, but not so great with some more subtle things.
So could you use it as a marinade?
In fact, that's a great way to use it, because when we were talking about other spirits, lighter spirits like vodka or gin, I was always saying, throw it in at the end, bring up the flavors. Here what we're looking for is we're looking for the aftertaste. So the sooner you put it into a recipe, the better, and marinating is a great way to use it.
Okay, now we've got a couple examples here of some dishes. Can you tell us what we have?
Well, this first dish here, this really nice colorful dish, is a fajita with beef and mezcal. And what we've done is we've got the beef, it's marinated, so it's a good way to use it, and we've got some Mexican flavors in it like cumin, and then we've grilled it, and you can almost smell that smoky taste coming off of it, or that smell, and it's really, really fantastic with beef. And this is a skirt steak, which is the kind of a cut of meat that you could really, really use a marinade with.
And I love how pink it is.
It's beautiful. I mean, that's a great way to serve it.
And now here we have some chicken wings.
Now this is actually a margarita chicken wings, and the reason it's called margarita chicken wings is because one of the core elements of this is we've actually got some citrus in here. We've got some mezcal, we've got some orange juice, we've got some lime juice, and again some interesting spices, cumin and cloves, and this has been marinated actually overnight. So another great way to infuse flavor. And again, when you grill it, you can see that because of the citrus in it, it's got a beautiful glaze over it, and that's just full of flavor. That's exactly what you're looking for when you use a spirit like this.
Those chicken wings look amazing. I'm a sucker for chicken wings, so they don't have a chance. What about using mezcal with desserts?
Well, it's a little bit too strong a flavor to use with fruit or with things like that, but it's a great thing to have after dinner to settle your stomach, so a little sip might be the way to go.
Yes, I think sip slowly. That's the key there.
Exactly.
Now, if you'd like to try any of these recipes at home, all you have to do is log on to our website for the recipes. Over to you now, Stephen.
Thanks, Jennifer. These fabulous mezcals come from Oaxaca, which in and of itself is a mecca for chefs because of its incredible cuisine. But that's it for this edition of Spirit Basics. Join us next week when we explore the very interesting world of that juniper-based spirit, gin. I'm Stephen Olson. For Jennifer Allan and our entire team here at Spirit Basics, we'll see you next week. Stigi Bayu, to your life.
Special thanks to Willow Park Wine and Spirits, whose dedication to providing knowledge, awareness, and service to their customers has made this show possible.